Female pilots have been a rare breed in the 120-year-old aviation industry, and female airline CEOs are literally unheard of. However, this woman defied stereotypes and broke down barriers to start her own commercial airline, Vietjet Air. Nguyen Thi Phuong Thao was born in 1970 in the capital city of Hanoi. Her father is a pharmacist and her mother is a teacher. At 17, she went to Moscow to study finance and economics at Plekhanov Russian University of Economics. At the age of 18, when she was a sophomore, realizing a shortage of goods in Eastern Europe, she made her foray into business by receiving clothing, office equipment, and consumer goods on credit from Japan, Hong Kong, and South Korea, and distributed to then Soviet Union in the years before its collapse. She shared about her first entrepreneurial journey in an interview. At that time, I went to school from 8 a.m. till evening. After school, I jumped right to my business. It was not until midnight that I could go home and sit down to record transactions. Not until 2 a.m. could my roommates and I have dinner. We woke up at 5 a.m. to schedule some tasks before going to school the next day. With constant effort and hard-working attitude, in 1991, she became a millionaire with her first million USD at the age of 21. She then moved on to importing steel, machinery, fertilizer, and other commodities from Eastern Europe to Vietnam. In 1992, she and her husband established Sovico Holdings in Russia. Over the time, Sovico Holdings is now a giant in real estate and venturing in multiple industries in Vietnam. She was also part of the team to draft the project to establish first private banks in Vietnam, which are Vietnam International Bank and Techcombank. In 2008, she came back to Vietnam and invested in HD Bank and became the permanent vice chairwoman of this bank. Under her leadership, HD Bank achieved extraordinary success over the years, climbing from top 40 to top 10 largest banks in Vietnam. In 2007, she made her biggest leap and launched Vietjet Air. In reality, the idea of establishing an airline in Vietnam has haunted Mrs. Thao since the early 2000s. However, due to the incompleteness of the legal system, Madame Thao's equipe had to wait until 2007 to receive the business license. At the beginning, Vietjet Air was projected to be a 5-star airline, but an unexpected encounter gave her a second thought. It was when we visited a rural village for charity on that holiday. On my preparation to come back, an all-female farmer asked us, "How many tons of rice do I need to afford a plane ticket? Tell me and I will save. I just wish to step on a plane once before I pass away." Those words really touched our hearts. With a 5-star airline, how can people like that farmer afford to fly? So when we came back, we decided to make a revision on our project and started to do research on budget airlines and low-cost model. We also realized that this model can bring about flying opportunities as well as economic development, tourism, and investment. Being the first private airlines to get the license, but Vietjet Air took off after other two private airlines of Vietnam, Indochina Airlines and Air Mekong. However, neither of the foregoers could fly high. Indochina stopped flying in 2008 due to losses and deaths among financial crisis. And Air Mekong met the same fate in 2013 after striving up to 5 years in losses. In fact, airline is a very challenging business. There is a saying that if you want to become a millionaire, first become a billionaire, then establish an airline, because operating an airline can cost more than a fortune. So we have to calculate very carefully to make sure once we take off, we can fly to success. Mathematics grew in part through audacious service. In 2012, Vietjet dressed its flight attendants with bikinis on the inaugural flight to a famous beach city and let them perform sexy Hawaiian dance. The stunt resulted in a fine from the government, but garnered worldwide free publicity for Vietjet and, most importantly, sold tickets. In response to this on media, she said,
I think you agree that wearing a bikini is pretty, right? For us, it's a beautiful image, a gesture that makes our customers happy. We will always try to best serve our customers while keeping the appropriate boundaries of culture and art.
What do you say to any criticism that it was a gimmick and it objectifies women?
Tôi nghĩ rằng là trong bất kể một cái đánh giá nào thì
There will always be different views. We see women in bikinis in beauty contests, and to me, that reflects the beauty of women.
With low-cost model, Mrs. Thao and Vietjet Air have brought the flying opportunities to millions of Vietnamese. The number of Vietnam passengers has more than doubled since it was launched, and 30% of Vietjet customers are taking a flight for the first time in their life. 6 years after its first commercial flight in 2011, Vietjet outcompeted its biggest competitor, national flag carrier Vietnam Airlines, as measured by passengers carried, with 43% market share in 2017. In 2013, Vietjet Air again received public attention when signing a contract with Airbus to acquire 100 planes. In 2016, she shared the spotlight with former U.S. President Obama in his visit to Vietnam when Vietjet signed a contract to acquire 100 Boeing. In 2017, Vietjet completed its initial public offering on Ho Chi Minh Exchange stock market with a market value of $3 million. The success of this low-cost airline contributed greatly to Mrs. Thao's property and reputation, making her the first self-made woman billionaire of Vietnam and the wealthiest self-made woman in Southeast Asia in 2011, with a net worth of $2.5 billion.